Hi guys, in this video I'm going to teach you how to draw the other half of the bee using symmetry. So there are some instructions on this side of the page which tells you first to watch this video and then tells you to look at the image and work out the structure. So we're looking for things like this is the head, this is the thorax and this is the abdomen. So we've got the legs here, we've got the wings, we've got the antennae, we've got the eyes. So you're looking at it and understanding. That's firstly very important. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start plotting points. Now at this side of the piece of paper you'll see various little dots. You might at first not know what they are, but if you think about it you'll be able to work it out as you go. Now I'm going to show you how to do this with a strip of paper. Now my strip of paper is cream, it doesn't matter what colour strip of paper you've got. So I have taken a measurement from the end of the wing to the centre of the bee, and if I then drag my piece of paper across I can draw a little line. Now if I keep the height of it the same, I can draw a little plot point. You'll see I've plotted it onto a point that's already there. And these points, you can take the point off here if you want to check, and bring it across here. You see how it's that point and this point there corresponds to the end here. So between those 2 points I can connect the line. Now there are things that aren't plotted, lots of things that aren't plotted. And the whole purpose of this task is for you to plot and begin to understand how to draw in this way. So you can do guidelines if it helps you. Construction lines are absolutely fine. So from the edge of the wing to the centre line, I'm taking a point. Now if I look at this line, what it does is it connects there. Again, it's not one of those straight lines, it kind of curves around and comes down. To here it curves and comes down again. There's a circular shape into the anchor point on that wing. I might want to work out now where this point is. So you can plot a few or lots of marks. Now you might have noticed when I've just plotted this one, I drew quite a long line. I've already got that point plotted onto there. If you're slightly off your line, it does not matter too much. So now I want to work out that point there. And you choose where you're going to plot yourself. There is no real system to this, but I like to do a section. So you can see that's coming out there. So hopefully what you've seen in that fast forward section is me plotting the whole thing. Occasionally I was getting confused about which marks on here I was using if I'd taken a specific measurement. So it's that one. That's why I put a cross on that one to remind me. Sometimes I've done a very short one when there's a lot together. Obviously you could turn it over, it's getting confusing, turn it around. You've got 4 pieces essentially you can work from. Discard it and get a new one if you're really struggling. You could in theory use a ruler, but it does not have to be that accurate. You're trying to get the overall proportions. It does not have to be millimetre perfect in this task. Once you have an accurate shape, you can then start adding some of the texture and detail. Now I'm using my children's equipment, so it's sort of maybe similar to the kind of things you have in a pencil case. So you could take a rubber and rub out some of the construction lines. I'm not fussed at all. I don't mind if construction lines are in work. Some artists leave them in, some take them out. I quite like them. It's a sort of truth to how you've made the work that I quite like. So I've got some pencil crayons here, and you might think you don't need all those colours, but you could explore a bit of colour mixing. So I'm going to work in a light area to begin with. See here, I'm going to put some yellow down. Now this yellow isn't as strong as the yellow I've used over here when I've been drawing it. Could use felt tips for the materials. So you see what I'm doing? I'm colouring in, but I'm putting the texture in. If you notice in here, these marks that I've drawn at the other side, you can see them. Now you might say, I don't have an orange, but it's a bit orange. You can build up some red into it. That will create an orangey kind of colour. If you do have an orange, you could work in with an orange, but you see how I'm just building it up? Getting some textures in. I will press a bit harder on the yellow. I didn't go very hard the first time. I might add some browns around the side. It's a bit greener and browner. But you see how I'm adding texture and directional line. If you think about Bumblebee, it's quite furry, so that's appropriate. Now into the black. If you notice these marks here are coming down, going outwards. They're sort of radiating out from an imaginary centre point. Now, there isn't a really hard clean edge between those two, like a boundary. It's kind of feathered edge. So if I work my pencil crayons over the top of each other, you can see I'm beginning to get those textures. This pencil crayons needs sharpening. It's quite blunt. I can create those nice textures building up. Now if you're struggling, you can just do all of this with a pencil. Pencil works perfectly well. So I'm going to show you some pencil down here. So I might build up the dark section, but remember I'm looking for those directional lines. This time they're going down at the abdomen in the black stripe. Building up little marks. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But I want those textures. I'm not looking for an even turn, I'm looking for the texture because it's suggesting the furry quality. So on the edge it's kind of a soft furry line. You might say, but this section's a white mess, it doesn't need tone, but it does. You can see the texture and the fur onto there. You can still see those marks into it even if it's white. So I'm building up some into there. So this is the lighter section, that's the darker section, and this is probably a medium section. You see how now weighting my pencil. So I'm not pressing quite as hard, I'm not pressing as light, so I'm looking for those directional lines over there. You can put a few down like this to guide you if you want to. And you can begin to see it. Now if you start looking at one of these leg sections, it's darker down this side of it. It's dark at the top up there. It's kind of got like little hairy bits coming off it. The whole thing is darker on the bottom. And remember, you're learning and trying things out. This is about you trying, getting used to new techniques. So I'm looking for the light bit at the top of that. It's a bit like a joint in the leg. Beginning to work it up. So you can work with colour, you can work solely with pencil. If you do want to try this with a fine line or a felt tip, these marks are much more like felt tips. I've done this on Procreate on an iPad, but essentially it's very much like that type of drawing. On the wing, it's much softer. There's less of this texture and mark making, so we'll have a little go on the wing section. I'll put a bit of a base colour down. just a light base colour and beginning to build up along the edge. Still see some darker lines into it, so you can see I'm building up different types of marks. You can see the wing and the body underneath the wing there, so I might just build up a little bit of darker tone into there. But you see how I'm going about it. The lines in here aren't an even weight. By that I mean they are not consistently heavy pressure. They get lighter and darker. See, that one's even. This one's not even, it's not consistent. So into the wing I might use some of these types of lines rather than this type of line. Good luck.